Hey everyone, I'm Shana and you're watching Recipes Are Simple. Today we're making the classic American chunky beef stew. Chunky beef stew is a meal in itself, tremendously comforting with some homemade bread, buttermilk biscuits, or dumplings. This beef stew is great in winter months, but every now and then, even when it's not cold, you do get the craving for this delicious stew. It's not actually a soup because it's rather chunky and not smooth or watery, and no, it's not a curry either. Although you can have it with rice if that's your thing. It's chunky and you have to rummage through the contents to make sure each spoonful has all the elements. The browned beef promises a wonderful pearlescent gloss to the gravy. The gravy that is simply heartwarming and delicious. So good for something so simple. So let's get started. For this recipe you need 800 grams of stewing beef cut into small chunks like this. You also need 4 large potatoes, peeled and cut into large chunks. We have 2 large carrots here, also cut into chunks. And I have 1 cup of onion. I'm using yellow onion here, about 1 cup. 2 to 3 ribs of celery that has been chopped. And half a cup of green peas. I'm using frozen green peas that have been thawed. Next we need some stock. I'm using 1.5 cups of beef stock, 2 large cloves of garlic, sliced, 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, that's a nice generous teaspoon. We also have half a teaspoon of garlic powder, apart from the fresh garlic, and half a teaspoon of black pepper powder. 4 tablespoons of freshly chopped parsley is recommended for this recipe, but if you don't have it, you can use 1 teaspoon of dried parsley as well. The next herb that is used in this chunky stew is sage. Now we need a 1/4 teaspoon or just a pinch of sage. Sage is a very strong flavor, so you don't want to overdo it. Just a pinch. And we also have 1 to 2 bay leaves. Apart from this, we have a teaspoon of cornstarch and potato starch each. This is used for the thickening of the stew, and for that tomato-ish flavor, we have 70 grams of tomato paste. This is the concentrated tomato paste and not to be confused with tomato puree. So first of all, we've cleaned our beef and we've patted it down with some kitchen paper towel. I'm adding some salt and pepper, and we're just going to season the beef with that. For this recipe, you can use a Dutch oven or a cast iron pot. These are traditionally used, but I have great success using my pressure cooker as well. So I've got my pressure cooker on heat, and to this we're going to add 5 tablespoons of vegetable oil. As the oil heats up, we're going to add the seasoned beef, and we're just going to toss this in the oil till it's slightly browned. You may see that some water is released from the beef before it starts to actually get brown. So once it's seared and just you get a little bit of brown color in there, you want to remove the beef from the cooker. In the oil left in the pot, we're going to add our chopped onions. So that's about 1 cup of chopped onions, as well as the garlic, 2 cloves, and 3 ribs of celery that has been chopped. We're going to saute this together just until the celery and the onions have softened. To this we're going to add the bay leaves. So my onions and celery are nicely softened now. To this we're going to add the tomato paste. It's 70 grams of tomato paste. Add the tomato paste and cook for a minute, stirring to make sure that there's no burning of the ingredients. Once you've cooked the tomato paste for 1 minute, we're going to add the pepper, the garlic powder, as well as the Dijon mustard. If you don't have Dijon or you don't use it, you can use mild American mustard as well. Stir everything through, and then we can return the seared beef. You just want to mix everything and coat it nicely. Add a sprinkling of water if you find the ingredients are sticking to the pot. And now we can add our potatoes and carrot. And now since I'm cooking this in a pressure cooker, I'm adding the potatoes and carrot right now. But if you're cooking in a Dutch oven and slowly cooking the beef, you can add the potatoes and the carrots later once the beef has tenderized. To this we're going to add the 1.5 cups of beef stock as well as just enough water to cover all the ingredients. Season with salt according to how salty your beef stock was to begin with. So at this stage we can add the freshly chopped parsley. Do add fresh parsley if you have it. Today, since I don't have it, I'm adding the dried parsley, just 1 teaspoon of dried parsley, as well as the dry sage. And once again, add very little bit amount of sage to this stew. It has a very distinct flavor for the chunky beef stew, but if you use too much, it is too strong. And if you don't have it, you can just leave it out completely. So I'm gonna close my pressure cooker and I'm gonna cook the beef till it's tender, about 8 steam whistles if you're a pressure cooker user. If you're using a Dutch oven or a cast iron pot, just cook slowly until the beef is tender and then add the potatoes and the carrot and continue cooking till they are cooked as well. So once everything is cooked, I'm going to open the cooker and now we can thicken the beef stew with our starches. That's 1 teaspoon of potato starch and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, just mixed and stirred into 1/2 cup of hot water. And we're going to add this into the stew, return to a simmer and just allow it to thicken a little bit. Check on the tenderness of the meat at this stage. Don't stir too much or you'll end up mashing the potato and the carrots too much. And at the very end, you want to add the thawed green peas. So I'm using frozen green peas that were thawed earlier. And your delicious, hearty, chunky beef stew is ready to be enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed the quick video recipe. Do let me know if you tried the recipe. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Bye.